What does a war look like when you are the one dropping the bombs, yet the faces you can't forget are the ones hiding underground? That question has followed me for more than 50 years. It followed me home. It followed me into sleep. And sometimes, in the quiet moments before dawn, it still whispers my name. I was an American. I wore no uniform. I carried no rifle. Yet I lived in North Vietnam while American bombs fell from the sky. I arrived in Hanoi in early 1965, under circumstances few Americans ever experienced. Officially, I was a neutral observer, part of a small delegation connected to humanitarian channels, a thin diplomatic thread that still existed before it snapped completely. Unofficially, I was a witness to a world my country barely imagined. Hanoi did not look like a battlefield then. It smelled of wet earth and cooking rice. Bicycles ruled the streets, their bells chiming softly like wind chimes. Children walked to school with ink-stained fingers. The war felt distant, something discussed on radios, argued about in cafes, announced in speeches made far away. At night, I stayed in a modest guest house near the old quarter. I could hear families laughing behind thin walls, the clink of bowls, the soft hum of life continuing. I wrote letters home describing a place that felt stubbornly alive. I thought, naively, that war was something you could point at on a map. I was wrong. The first air raid siren changed everything. It was not loud at first, almost polite, a rising wail that seemed unsure of itself. People paused. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Chopsticks hovered in the air. Then the siren grew sharper, urgent, insistent. A man grabbed my arm. "Follow," he said in broken English. Suddenly, the streets transformed. Mothers scooped children into their arms. Shopkeepers slammed shutters. Bicycles abandoned mid-road. People flowed, not ran, but moved with practiced urgency toward narrow staircases, trapdoors, alley entrances. I followed them underground. The shelter smelled of damp clay and human breath. Oil lamps flickered, throwing shadows across faces pressed close together. No one screamed. No one prayed aloud. This was not panic. This was routine. Then the ground trembled. Not violently at first, just a distant rolling thunder. But with each passing second, the sound grew heavier. The earth seemed to inhale and then convulse. Dust fell from the ceiling. A child whimpered. Somewhere above us, the sky was tearing itself open. That was the moment I understood. For these people, war did not arrive with soldiers. It arrived from above. The bombings did not stop. They became a rhythm, an awful, mechanical heartbeat. Morning production, afternoon evacuation, night bombing. Repeat. I watched entire neighborhoods empty in minutes. Villages dissolved into forests. Schools relocated to caves. Hospitals moved underground, their operating rooms lit by generators and faith. I traveled with a family during an evacuation. The father, a factory foreman, carried machinery parts wrapped in cloth. The mother balanced a child on her hip and a sack of rice on her back. The children carried notebooks and textbooks. Education was never left behind. "What about your home?" I asked. The father shrugged. "Home can be rebuilt," he said. "Skill cannot." Factories followed the people. Lathes were reassembled under hills. Assembly lines ran beneath bamboo-covered roofs designed to look like jungle from the air. Women stitched uniforms by candlelight. Teenagers repaired bomb-damaged roads at night so supply trucks could move by dawn. I had grown up believing productivity required stability. Here, production thrived on movement. Every bomb created a new challenge. Every challenge created a new adaptation. And still, the bombs kept coming. The night that broke me came during one of the heaviest raids. We were in a deep shelter outside Hanoi, reinforced, wide, crowded. The air was thick. The lamps flickered wildly as the bombing began. This time, the explosions were closer, much closer. The shelter shook so hard I thought it would collapse. Earth groaned. A section of wall cracked. Someone shouted. A baby screamed, not in fear, but confusion, the pure shock of noise and motion. I remember pressing my palms against the dirt floor, as if I could hold the ground together. I thought of my home in America, my quiet street, my parents asleep, unaware. And suddenly, the thought struck me with terrifying clarity. These bombs carry my country's fingerprints. When the bombing finally stopped, no one cheered. No one celebrated survival. People emerged slowly, silently. Above ground, the night was burning. Fires glowed where buildings once stood. The air tasted of metal and smoke. Somewhere, a factory had been hit. Somewhere else, a shelter had not been deep enough. A woman knelt in the dirt, digging with bare hands, calling a name over and over. I could not help her. I could only watch. I left North Vietnam months later, carrying notebooks full of observations and a heart heavier than any luggage. Back home, people asked me what it was like. I struggled to answer. How do you explain a war where people build schools underground, where children learn multiplication by candlelight while bombs fall, where factories move at night and villages disappear by day, not in defeat but in defiance? Years have passed. Governments have changed. Documents have been declassified. Historians debate strategy, tonnage, outcomes. But I remember something simpler. I remember a father saving machine parts instead of furniture. I remember children memorizing lessons underground. I remember a people who refused to let war interrupt life, only reshape it. The lesson I carry is not about politics. It is about perspective. War from the air looks like targets and coordinates. On the ground, it looks like hands digging shelters, feet walking into forests, and lives rebuilt again and again from dust. And the question that still haunts me, the one I began with, remains unanswered. When the bombs stop falling, who truly bears the weight of what was dropped?